Hi folks, this is Sue Bell from Market Domination Solutions, and we are here today to slay the Google Dragon. We've got some serious ninja tactics that we're going to talk about today, and I yeah, we'll just dive in. So, dominating your market, not that this is my favorite topic, but it's my favorite topic. What can I say? First, we need to lay some ground rules. It's not really beginner stuff, but it is definitely foundational stuff. And I don't feel like I can sally forward with a reasonable conversation unless I cover some of the basics. So bear with me, those of you who have followed me for years. I'll try to throw in some stuff that's new and exciting to make it interesting. So speed. When it comes to market domination, I've seen guys try to plan the whole thing in great detail and basically spend a good 6 months just trying to plan out how they were going to dominate the market and not do a single thing during those 6 months of planning time and not make any money and not make any forward progress. Don't do that. Speed. Figure out the first chunk, do the first things. You can figure out the rest of it as you go along. You can allow it to unfold. It's going to morph a bit as you get into the market and you find out how your tribe is responding. So just dive in and get started. At the same time, do automation with prudence. In a few slides, I'm going to talk about the difference between engagement and relationships. And I think that today you're seeing a lot of automation that's attempting to do engagement, but you're sacrificing the relationship for the automation of the engagement. And for me, engagement is a KPI. It's not a marketing tool. It's not a way to do marketing. More on that later. That's a whole soapbox. I'll try to keep the soapboxes to a minimum today. The plan, getting from here to domination. Your primary elements, the first things that you focus on should be multifaceted. So in other words, if you're going to have a presence on Facebook, make sure you understand the elements of Facebook that are going to be ranking in the search engines, what actually gets indexed, what doesn't get indexed, and focus on those things first, right? So whatever it is that you're doing, go for the 2-fers, go for the 3-fers. Try to take advantage, because it's so easy to do in digital marketing, right? It's so easy to have the 2-fers, 3-fers, 4-fers. Go for those things first. Grab onto as much as you possibly can with those first initial months forward. At the same time, don't overreach. It's better to move slowly than to extend beyond what your infrastructure can handle. So I've seen guys go and set up social platforms, set up like 24 social platforms and post everywhere a couple of times, and then they don't post anywhere, and all you hear are crickets, right? You walk in and there's spider webs. I don't think anything looks worse than that. It looks like your company died. So don't do that. Stick with what you can handle right now. Do citations and things that you don't have to go back and maintain, and the things that actually require maintenance, take on as you can handle them. Understand evergreen versus flash in the pan. So for years I've taught white hat and evergreen stuff because I feel like most small businesses have a very limited amount of time and energy that they can spend doing marketing. And I hate for folks who are on a limited time budget or a limited money budget spend time and energy in things that are going to be here today and gone tomorrow, and 6 months from now they have to start all over from ground zero. So I have always tried to focus on either mid to long-term solutions for marketing. Now, everything is in flux right now. It's over the course of the next 5 years, I think you're going to see more tremendous shifts in marketing than what you've seen in the last 15. If you think about it, like 15 years ago was the early days of Google. Think about how everything has shifted. Like social media came in 2009, 2010. Before that, there wasn't really anything, right? And how everything has advanced in the so take that and double it And that's what I think we're going to see in the next 5 years. I think we're going to see an entire paradigm shift. So I'm going to start talking more about flashes in the pan, but I'm going to say, hey, this is a short-term solution. It's a good short-term solution. It brings you a lot of traffic, but just know you're not in this for the long haul. And then the things that, like the only thing that I see that is going to be a really long-term solution is content, because content doesn't ever go anywhere. It might change media. It might go from words on a page to a video, and from a 2D video to a 3D video, but the content in and of itself, the ideas in the content or the script, that doesn't ever go away. So content is the only thing that I see that is going to be long-term, and everything else is, if there is anything left standing 5 years from now from what we have right now, it will have morphed so drastically you won't recognize it anymore. So I'm going to talk about short-term things, mid-term things, long-term things, and you need to know how you want to fit each one of those into your market domination plan. All right, rule number 1, third-party platforms. Know where your market is and where it is not. So there's all kinds of software out there that will give you insight as to what your competitors are doing on third-party platforms and what kind of engagement they're getting. If you don't want to or can't invest in one of those pieces of software, you can do it the old-fashioned way. You know who your top competitors are. You can go to their individual third-party platforms or social platforms and look and see what kind of a conversation do they have there. And if they're not getting a lot of engagement, then don't go there unless you can automate it while you're doing something else. So Instagram is one of those. Instagram is an interesting thing. I really don't like Instagram, but that's just a personal preference. But Instagram, if you can automate Instagram while you're doing your Facebook stuff, then do it. If your market's not in Instagram, then and you have to take extra steps to do something in Instagram, don't do it, right? So that's just my short and sweet take on that. Don't spend your time engaging somewhere where your market is not. Rule number 2, SERPs. SERPs is still, in my humble opinion, the best way to get traffic, hands down. Always make sure you've got some kind of a presence in the SERPs. Know what the platforms are, the areas of the platforms that are going to show up in the SERPs. Think video, think question box, think knowledge box. Grab as much real estate as you possibly can. We've talked some about that, different ways. I'm going to talk more about it today. And that should, when you're factoring in those initial things that you want to dominate, SERPs is a little bit more of a long-term strategy, but there are things that you can do to get in the SERPs very quickly, and we're going to cover some of those today. Wasn't the last one Rule 2, Rule 4? How did that happen? Anyway, keywords. Get traction with high-level keywords. So you want to start with long tails and mid tails and back yourself into the harder keywords over time. That hasn't changed at all. However, the things that have changed with the high-level keywords, the harder keywords, is you can cheat. So, okay, I'll answer your question a little bit, Neil. We'll have some examples. Back yourself into the harder keywords. You can, I lost my train of thought. Hang on just a second. Oh yeah, you can grab SERPs real estate with some of the harder keywords by cheating with things like video and some other stuff that we're going to get into. And then for the rest of it, you're just going to have to back yourself in there. So in other words, what I mean by that is if you have a silo structure, for instance, where you've got the most difficult keyword at the top of your silo and then mid-level keywords below that and then long tails below that, you start by sending links to the mid-tails and long tails, and those links will help your head term rank. So by the time you actually get around to ranking your head term, you just need a link or two and you're good. Keep an eye on what's trending, piggyback on those terms with tags, and piggyback on them with blog posts, Keep in the conversation of what's trending. That's one of the quickest and easiest ways to get traffic. Engage. All right, soapbox out. So engagement, as I mentioned a minute ago, is, as far as I'm concerned, a KPI thing. It's like how long a video is watched, how many times people click on the site. But real engagement starts from the inside of a company and goes out. And it's more about a relationship. If most of the time when you hear engagement, if you replace it with the word relationship, you're going to have a better marketing strategy, because people buy products from people they know, like, and trust. And we know, like, and trust people today because of the relationships we built. I have watched this morph from the 1980s when people were quite happy to buy from a company. Maybe I have to go back to the 70s, but they were quite happy to buy from a faceless company, a faceless shield. But today, folks want to know what the company is about. They want to know their why. They want to know what they stand for, and they want to know the people behind it. And if you give them that opportunity to get to know you, they will buy from you faster and longer. All right, I'm sliding the soapbox back under because I could talk about that for an hour, but I won't. Honest. Authenticity. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the relationship, right? You want sincerity, you want approachability, you want a way for people to actually be able to talk to you. So it's fine, in my humble opinion, to have a chat bot on your website if it helps people quickly get information that they need and quickly be able to figure out how to talk to you. But if you just put a chat bot up with the idea that it's going to answer everybody's questions, and you no longer need to have qualified people on the help desk or a person behind the chat bot, that doesn't cut it. Consistency. I've talked about this a lot, frequency of publish. So this falls in line with the previous two rules. So it has to do with creating that relationship. It has to do with being approachable. Your conversation also has to be consistent. Now, it needs to work for you and your business or your client's business. I would say if you're going to be on Facebook, you got to post at least a couple times a week. It's better if you can post a couple times a day, but that's not possible for everybody. So you have to figure out what works for you and then be consistent with that. Now, the interesting thing is the more you post, the more engagement you'll get, and the more feedback you'll see as to what it is that your audience wants. Like, it surprises me sometimes the things that I put in Facebook that get the most likes and the most engagement, the most comments back. Some things are predictable, but other things, they really surprised me. So I would say you have to have, I need to do a whole thing on branding. I've said that a couple of times. But within whatever the confines of your brand are, stretch to the edges of that. Don't go outside the limits of your brand, but smack hard into the edges. And take a look. We'll go more into the different segments of your audience in a few minutes, but as you're looking at those different segments, talk to each specific segment. All right, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So, oh good, it's the next slide. That's awesome. So Google can help you figure out who your audience is, who your segments are. Analytics. Let me just jump into this. If you haven't turned on this section of analytics, you need to, so that it collects data. So it's here in the audience section, and I still have clients today who have not gone into the audience section and turned it on, so they're not collecting the information. Once you turn it on, it takes a while for the data to collect. And the other interesting thing is, depending up here what time slice you're looking at, you'll get different data on all of these next few slides, okay? So one of the things that always surprises me is how heavy or how small a female percentage I have in my audience. The internet marketing audience has a higher percentage of females overall, but my demographic tends to always be a bit on the small side. depending on the product that I'm pitching, I'm going to have different age segments interested in different products. So I look at this, the way that I can see what the ages and genders are for the different products is I can look at this when I'm pitching a particular product. So right now we're talking, for instance, about the traffic network. And so if I look at that time slice where I'm talking mostly about the traffic network, I can see the demographic of who's interested in that particular product. So I also wanted, so harkening back to how we're going to talk to our audience, how we're going to create the relationship and do the engagement and figure out what content we're going to actually provide. Let me just get down here in my slides. By understanding your audience composition in terms of gender, age, and interests, you're also going to understand the kinds of creative content you need to develop, the kinds of media buys you should make, and the kinds of audiences you need to develop for marketing and remarketing campaigns. So let's look at the affinity category for just a minute. The affinity targeting analyzes a person's overall interest, their passions, their lifestyle. You get a better sense of an overall identity. One of the things that confused me the first time I looked at the stuff under audience is that a single visitor can fall into more than one category. So if I added up the percentages, what's cut off here are the number of people and the percentage for each of these categories. Find my cursor. For each one of these categories, when I add the percentages up, I get more than 100%, and that's because some people fall into multiple categories. So if you look at the various segments here, I can find ideas about how the folks in my tribe break out into segments, and I can get ideas for things that I might not have published before in Facebook is what I'm really trying to say, right? So I can look at this. I find it interesting that I've got value shoppers and I've also got luxury shoppers. Obviously, most of the folks are going to be business professionals, and a huge percentage of them are geeks. But some of the other ones surprised me a little bit. And the fact that we've got a fairly substantial number of people in the banking and finance industry, a significant number of them that are either sports and fitness or health and fitness. Those were interesting to me, because to me, health and fitness and geeks, that's not necessarily those two things don't necessarily go together. So in market segments, this is people who are actually actively looking to purchase products and services, not necessarily your products and services. And this can vary depending on the time frame that you're looking at. All of these things can vary depending on the time frame that you're looking at. Okay, it's time for a sip of coffee. Hang on. So things that come to my mind as I look at these market segments is it gives me ideas for products that, I can hone the ideas of some of the products that I might create in the future, and understand which segments I'm going to actually go market to. They're very similar segments over in Facebook, and if you haven't used these segments in AdWords yet, when you set up your AdWords ads, you can go over into these in-market segments and promote to those people. But it also just lets me better understand my tribe. And again, go back to that idea of the content creation and the engagement. Like how do I want to talk to each one of these segments, and making sure that I don't leave people out of the conversation, right? So then there's the other category. Interestingly enough, the other category actually provides a more specific view of your users, your visitors to your website. For example, affinity categories includes foodies, while the other category includes recipes / cuisine / East Asian. So it can get very specific. All right, so that's the end of the consistency, frequency of publish, and engagement conversation. We're going to move into the next section. Am I going too fast, guys? Just see where we're at. Okay, we're good. All right, so rule number 8, schema. Yeah, right, breathe. Schema, there's a lot of different ways that you can implement Schema. By far and away, Google's most preferred is with JSON-LD. And on the inside of, hang on, let me get you this link. On the inside of our members area, we've got the Ninja members area. I've got plugins that I recommend for all that kind of stuff. Let me throw this into the chat. So the link that I have down here, schema.org/docs/full, that's constantly updated. That's the full list of everything that you can mark up. Doesn't mean that Google's going to recognize it, but that's beside the point. All right, so these are the things, what I have here on this page, these are the things that I think are super important for you guys to mark up on your website. Pretty much everything is an article, right? All of your content that you've got, either on a static page or on a blog post, those are articles. If you're going to have an event, you absolutely need to mark the event up. You should mark up your local business. If you are a local business with all of the local business information, there's a whole set of data that falls underneath local business. If you're selling a course, a product, or a service, you should mark those up, and you should mark up any reviews that you have on your website. Now, knowledge graph. Things that help with the knowledge graph elements is your organizational info, your social profiles, and your corporate contacts. Does everybody know what a knowledge graph is, since we had a question about other elements in the search? Let me just see if I can find a knowledge graph really fast. Oh, if we do something like oracle.com, we should get a knowledge graph on Oracle. All right. So here, this is a knowledge graph on Oracle. All right, and these over here, this is the question box that I referenced earlier. What was the other thing? There was question and knowledge boxes. Okay, good. Good. So, yeah, I mean, you can write the JSON-LD yourself, but it changes from time to time, so it's really nice to use a plugin. It's a little fiddly. Now, the interesting thing is JSON-LD is going to, I'm going to get technical here for a minute. JSON-LD is markup that actually ends up in the head. It doesn't end up actually on the page. It's 100% machine code. So you can use other markup on page. Man, that can be a whole class in and of itself. I don't know how far down the schema path I want to go, but we should have, Jazz, would you make a note? We should have like a whole schema webinar, because I could easily spend, well, I could spend a week on schema, but I'll spend an hour on it at some point. So this is the first real big surprise. All right, this is something that I've mentioned to other SEOs, and their eyes get big. They don't know it. So so I wanted to share this with you today. Structured elements, good old-fashioned structured elements. I'm not talking about schema markup. I'm talking about tables and list items. Using list elements can get you into these question boxes. I have back engineered how to do this. I've gone and looked at what the markup is on page. There's supposedly there is a whole list of things that you have to do to be able to get into this box up here, but to get into the answer boxes down here, if you have your questions and answers, like a frequently asked question box set up on your page with an unordered list and list elements, you're a candidate to fall into this box over here. It's just that easy. All right, so let's talk about links for a minute, because links are this ever-moving thing. Links, the content on your page and your inbound links are still two of the most important aspects of ranking today. Has not changed. Things that have changed is traffic. Traffic has become infinitely more important. And traffic, interestingly enough, to your inbound links, is more important. So if you have a link from a website that is well trafficked, it's going to do much better than a link from a website that doesn't have a lot of traffic. And a link from a website that doesn't have any traffic is going to be even further diminished. So what are the most heavily trafficked sites on the internet, right? Google properties. You get a double whammy with Google properties because Google properties, Google loves its own properties, right? It rewards you for the link juice from its own properties to your website. And so folks have been exploiting this for, I don't know, a year, maybe 18 months now with Google Authority Stacks. Here's a sample stack. I'm going to show you a few pages from a sample stack. This is something that was outsourced. This isn't something that we did, but it gives you an idea of what a stack can look like. Okay, so so each one of these is a different kind of a Google property, and I'm going to show you some examples from the inside of these properties. Remember that you got to build backlinks to these properties, right? We'll talk a little bit more about those backlinks in a second. Within this particular stack, we targeted 21 different keywords. I still recommend having silos on your website. I still recommend that when you're going to do a stack, you target a single silo. Now, some small businesses, they are a single silo, right? So like the hairdresser that I have, really all she does is hair. But the previous hairdresser I had, she did hair, she did weddings, right? So that, in my mind, that's two different silos because weddings are a pretty difficult thing. They're a more difficult thing to tackle. And so you want to have a silo from that. You want to keep that separate from the haircuts and the hairstyles. So, you know, yeah, silo your sites and keep a stack, any one stack to a single silo. So within this sample, they took all of the social URLs and they gave them Google shorteners. What that does is it gives you two ways to reference the same URL, and one of them, of course, is a Google property. So you get the double whammy of the Google property. Now remember, let me just back up here for a second. There are all of these different docs, and every single one of these docs has basically got a link to all of the different properties, and it's using all of these keywords. And you know, so there were like probably a dozen pages. There's a dozen different third-party platforms, and then there's like a dozen different shorteners. So this is an image. This is a Google image, and within a Google image you can have links. So they link to the main site. The fact that these lines go out, it's completely superfluous, right? There's no linking from one image to another image. Google's not looking at that and seeing some kind of a format. It's just strictly for visual aesthetics. The thing that's important is each one of these blocks had a link inside of it. This is the website. So they created a Google website. This over here on the left-hand side, this is the entire site. It's got a good couple thousand words on the page. Like it's an exceptionally well done page. It's aesthetically pleasing. And then this is the blow up of this part down here, where you can see they embedded the other properties that they created. So each one of these properties out here are all embedded in as each one of these blocks here. And then they've got the social channels with the Google shortened links, and then other properties, other links to the website and other places. And these sites here also all had, or these pages I should say, each one of these properties also had a Google shortened link. So you can see from this how incestuous it was. Like everything linked to everything else, which I thought was kind of interesting because it was a little bit too, I didn't see where there was like a single document and everything sort of span out from that. Everything just kind of interlinked between itself, like around to each other. and that's not actually the way that I do cloud stacking, but you can kind of get the idea. Like I'm more into, like, you have a single document. From that document you link to everything, and from each one of those documents you can link to everything, but you don't want to do the cross-link kind of thing. You don't want document A to link to document B and document B to link back to document A. I don't do that kind of stuff. All right, so depending on what it is that you're doing, you're going to want to backlink to the Google property. Sometimes you can get great results just with an authority stack, and sometimes you need something else. It depends on what it is you're trying to do. For example, if you're in the local market, it may be that the cloud stack or the authority stack all by itself, those are synonymous terms today in the industry, authority stack and cloud stacking. It may be that that's fine and you don't need anything more than that. For other things, you're going to need additional backlinks. It depends, too, on how there's so much more to the linking structure than just the cloud stack. Obviously, all your third-party platforms, you want them to link to your money site so that you get a tiered effect in all of this. So I'm not sure if it really still helps, but I still ping everything. Oh, there were some other things that I wanted to talk about. Let me find my slide deck again. Hang on a second. Let me see where I am. Oh, yeah. So, so if you need to go on from here, I would say the next thing that I would do is build a second tier, right? And for that I use sites like Weebly. I like Weebly because you can get a subdomain, and you can so you're completely separate from everything else that's on Weebly. You get the domain authority. I don't think Weebly works as well as it used to, but it's still pretty decent. There are other sites out there. Oh, what's the mouse one? Rebel Mouse, and a bunch of other equivalent sites to that. Other things you can do for backlinks are Web 2.0s like Blogger and social signals. Like So, for example, these social signals up here, these were all branded accounts, but you can go into secondary social accounts. So that's pretty much the story on backlinks in a nutshell. I've used Pingler for a long time. As I said, I'm not sure that pinging still does anything, but that's what I use. All right, so let's talk more about what we've done with the stacks and how effective they've been. Negative SEO. Give me one out there if you guys have done negative SEO. I'm just curious to see where we're at. We have rather a fair number of people on the call today. Wow, nobody's saying that they've done it. Negative SEO, that's interesting. All right, so negative SEO can, like, let's say that you've got a client who's got some negative PR. If the negative PR is just from another website, you can probably do negative SEO and push them down. However, if the negative PR is from a press site, from a news site that's got a pretty hefty domain authority, sending more links to that is just going to nail it to the top of the SERPs. So rather than sending links to a news site, bad links to a news site, what we have found to be incredibly successful is to cloud stack or to authority stack the other not negative items. So cloud stack or authority stack your social platforms. We did this just a couple of days ago and completely blew everything off of the front page in a matter of hours, right? So I was actually shocked at how quickly it can work. So stacking for map packs. This is an example of something I found out in the wild, so as to speak, for ranking map packs. I just wanted to show you guys some of the stuff that was out there. It's not that this is bad. It's not the way that we do it, but it's not bad. So you've got all of the different sources over here. You've got the target URLs and then the anchor text. So one of the ways that you get your map pack ranked for additional keywords is to have the anchor text of the keyword that you're looking for linked to your map pack. And so there are interesting ways. It helps if you've got the keyword actually associated with your map listing somehow. And if the keyword isn't associated with somebody's review or somebody's feedback, you can certainly answer their feedback and you can include the keyword that way. So, so that plus some inbound links with that keyword are going to help you rank for that keyword in your map pack. All right, so for a minute, let's talk about traffic networks, which if you haven't been following what I've been talking about recently, this is the product that we're selling right this minute, but I want to talk about traffic networks and authority stacks for a few minutes because it's interesting. It's very interesting. Extreme map pack ranking. So we have had a lot of success with much less intense linking structures than what you saw on the previous page. And inside the traffic network, we're going to have a combination of done for you. They're the network sites, right? So the network sites actually can help get your map rankings up, as well as over the shoulder using using some of the cloud stacking stuff. Our recently refined cloud stacking concepts. And what we've managed to do is rank. So let's say that your GMB is actually listed in Scottsdale, Arizona, but in the greater Phoenix metro area, you've got a good 14 different suburbs, right? So what we've been able to do with our cloud stacking, with our authority stacking, is rank for all of the suburbs in fairly short order. So, for example, we put out the cloud stack, and I would say this isn't like everybody's results are going to be different. I don't want to set up an expectation that everybody's going to have the exact same result. But the last one that we tried, we ranked for something like 7 out of 9 suburbs in about 36 hours. Maybe it was 48 hours. Like, it was truly amazing. So video, let's talk about video for a second. Video just gets crazy. So what we started with video domination is going to a whole new level with the network sites and the Google stacking. We're looking at being able to take entire channels and rank everything. It takes a little bit of finesse to get some of the videos to rank for a bunch of keywords, but we've got, you can go in and add stuff to the description. We flesh out the description so that you've got more content in there and therefore more keywords in there. And then you can just kind of, right, like from everything that I've said, you can start to see, oh, you know, one of the things that I didn't show. Oh, that's okay. No, I want to show you guys because I think it's really quite cool. So check out, I don't know if you guys have done this kind of a map before, but if you can like say that you're, yeah, right, don't self-implode. So you can create a map, right? Within your maps, you can create a destination map. And within that, you've got a lot of different places where you can put content and you can put links, and you can really get quite carried away. And so that whole map thing becomes part of your whole cloud stack thing. So think about that. Think about all of the keywords that you've got and content like that. You think about your videos. You think about all of the content that you've got in your videos. Make sure you have unique content between whatever it is that you're using in your cloud stack and whatever it is that you're using in your video comments. So then, last but not least, is to dominate the entire front page. Right? So I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to try to say that, you can do this for any keyword, but there are a bunch of keywords out there that you can do this with where you can absolutely dominate the entire front page. And this is something, honestly, this is something that I thought was long gone. Like, I don't know, the last time I saw more than 2 or 3 entries from the same company was 2012, 2013 maybe. So this is kind of like the wild, wild west all over again, hence the phrase, there be gold in our hills. So we're going to show you this process and we're going to walk through examples. We've got a case study. The case study that we're doing is going to be with the Traffic Network program is going to be keto. And so there's lots and lots and lots of space in the keto market. It's not a super easy thing to rank for anymore because there's a lot of people who've jumped on the keto bandwagon. So it's one of those really nice mid-level things. It's not super hard like some of the lawyer terms, but it's also not a real walk in the park. So I think it's going to be a great case study. All right, so that is what we're going to cover in the Traffic Network Extreme Domination Training. Total market domination, just like it's, I don't know, what, 2006 I would say again, 2005, 2006 I think was the last time that I really had this much fun with SEO. It's pretty crazy. Let me see if I can get you guys a link for this because that would be good at this juncture. All right, I think I missed a couple other links along the way, but we'll catch you up. If you guys watch the replay, any links that I didn't drop in the chat box earlier, I will drop now. So, so this is the link to the Traffic Network sales page. If you want to join us, I cannot recommend it strongly enough. This is some crazy, crazy stuff that we've been doing. At this point, I can't even tell you how many networks we've got of our own that are rocking and rolling with this thing, and I'm excited to share all of this with you. Yeah, right? Those were the days. Exactly, Sam. So I look forward. We have had so many people jump in over the course of the last week. This is probably, I don't know, this is like the most exciting program that I've had in a very long time. It's certainly created a lot of chatter and a lot of questions, and it's definitely like, I have a pretty subdued group, you guys, and you tend to wait until the very last minute to buy stuff, right? So when we close the doors, everybody tends to hop in the last 48 hours that we close the doors. But on this one, we had like extreme record sales last week. So we're closing the door. I think we're going to extend it. We were going to close the doors on Fridays, but I've had so many people asking questions, and I've got so much going on. Like we talked to everybody who's walked in the front door and they want to do their networks. We've talked to every single person to make sure that their network gets set up the way that they want it set up, and just, making sure that everybody gets exactly what it is that they're looking for and have all their questions answered. We've got Facebook group, we've got, we've had our first webinar, and so the first webinar we had was just an FAQ webinar. It's a week from Tuesday starts our first Extreme Ninja training, and so I think we'll probably extend the sale until Tuesday. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. At the bottom of the sales page, there's a link that goes right directly to the help desk, opens a ticket, and I'll be getting back to you as soon as possible. So I love you guys. I can't wait to see you on the inside. We are going to dominate markets together. And until next week, this is Sue Bell, Market Domination Solutions. Ciao.